Welcome to this first session of the 8th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with the gratitude to the Lord, through whose grace everything is possible. The Guru Parampara, through which this knowledge has been preserved and passed on since generations. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share the understanding with you. Let's start with a prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karva Vahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So as you know, Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a sacred scripture which is divided into 18 adhyayas, and they are further subdivided into 3 khanda consisting of 6 adhyayas each. The first 6 adhyayas talk about the jiva, the tvam padartha, or when we think about the jiva or shodhan, when we try to think about it, it is the aham padartha, and it is predominantly the message of the Lord is towards karma, because jiva is karma pradhan, is more inclined towards karma, and for his own shuddhi, for his own upliftment, God gives us the karma yoga or the karma pradhan. So that was the fundamental subject matter of the first 6 adhyayas. Of course, there were many messages of the jnana, the knowledge, in the second adhyaya, of dhyana, meditation, nididhyasana in the 6th adhyaya. But you see, the 3rd, 4th and the 5th adhyaya, predominant understanding was karma, and how we have to do karma with an understanding, with kind of a karma yoga bhavana. The next 6 adhyayas, starting from the 7th adhyaya, is predominantly devoted to Ishvara Tattva, the Tat Padartha, which is also called Brahma when we talk of the Sarva-Vyapaka or all-pervading Tattva. And here the message of the Lord is mainly the sadhana, which is given is the bhakti, the devotion. When we need to understand the Lord, know the Lord, connect with the Lord, the best way is through devotion and bhakti. So in the 7th adhyaya we saw the Gnana Vijnana Yoga, and now we are starting the 8th adhyaya. And finally, the last 6 adhyayas mainly devote to the Aikya, Gnana, Asmi, or the Gnana Pradhan. So essentially, if you see, the crux of Gita Ji is the crux of Upanishads and the Vedas, where the ultimate knowledge of the Tattva, the Jeev, Brahma, Aikya, which is denoted by the Mahavakyas of Upanishads like Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi is denoted. And the main message for the sadhakas like us is to purify ourselves, is to uplift ourselves, is to progress and finally achieve the goal of the human life, which is the Brahma Jnana, which is Sadhya, which is the goal. And the ways this Jnana can be achieved is through the sadhana. And the sadhana that are available, the tools that are available to us to do this sadhana are Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and ultimately leading to the Brahma Jnana. So final destination where we have to reach is that knowledge of the Aikya, of the existence, the Tattva behind all this, which is the same. So if the goal, Sadhya, is Bhagavan, Ishwar, and if Tattva that is being described here in the 7th, 8th, 9th adhyaya is about Ishvara, we also need to understand who actually is God, how and what are the different manifestations or swarupas of the God, how they manifest and how we can understand God. So essentially, the commonest way we try and understand the Lord or God is its Saguna Sakar Swarupa, which consists of the form and the name of the Lord. So we call this Swarupa as Bhagavan in our colloquial terms. Also we call it as Avatar Swarupa, that means the God incarnates in this Swarupa, takes a form, takes a name, and basically all this devotion and the devotees that we do towards Ram, Krishna, Shiv, all the Matajis, Ganesh, and all the Devi, Devatas, all are Saguna Sakar Swarup of the Lord. The second Swarupa that we understand Lord, which our Upanishads describe, is the Nimitta and the Upadana Karana of the universe, which we also call as Ishvara. So essentially, this is not just the material cause, not just the instrumental cause of the creation, but is also the material cause of the creation, meaning that this Ishvara Tattva has not just created this universe, but is also manifesting himself in this universe as part of the creation. That means it is not just the instrumental cause, but also the Upadana Karana. And Bhagavan in the 7th Adhyaya shows his Vibhuti, which will also be described much more in details in the future Adhyayas. It also can be described as a Virata Swarupa, the Vishwarupa of Bhagavan, Antaryami, as it resides in each individual souls as Antaryami, and with whose glory and whose grace everything is possible. So here the sadhaka also understands that God is not just this form, but it is that energy, it is that powerful energy which radiates, which pervades. They say we believe that God is everywhere. So how can we see that God everywhere? That is how this kind of Vibhuti, Virata or Vishwarupa is being described by the Lord, which will also come up in the next Adhyaya. But Bhagavan Krishna himself says that in essence his Swarupa is the Nirgun Nirakar Swarupa, which is the formless Swarupa, and this formless Swarupa is also called the Chaitanya, which is the Adhisthana of the manifestation, which is also called as Atma when we see it from a personal perspective, as an individual perspective. When we see it from the universal perspective, we call it Brahma, consciousness, and the Swarupa is described in the Upanishads as Sat, Chit and the Ananda Swarupa. So this is the Nirgun Nirakar form of the Lord. So we need to understand when Krishna speaks from which form, because in different shlokas of each of these Adhyayas, Krishna sometimes talks from the Saguna Sakar Swarupa, sometimes he talks from the Ishwar Swarupa as the Karta of the universe, and sometimes he talks from the Nirgun Nirakar Swarupa, which is Akarta. He will say, I have created this, Matsani Sarva Bhutani Nacha Matstani. All the beings reside in me, but no beings reside in me. So he may be Karta, he may be Akarta. In the next shloka he will talk, and which appears to us as contradictory, but he is talking from his different forms of his own Swarupa. So the question is why God has to take different forms or different Swarupas. It is essentially that is for the Krupa of ourselves, the devotees, the Jivas, so that we can devote to the Lord in the form that we enthralls us or which appeals to us. So essentially for some Krishna will be very appealing, for some Shiva will be very appealing because his ascetic form, for some the Mata Swarup, there is a faith and the devotion in the Devi Swarupa. So according to the Shraddha, according to the faith of the Jiva, one can devote to one of the Swarupa, and that's the Karuna, that's the compassion of the Lord, that God has created so many forms for us Jivas. So the sadhana that we use to reach the Lord, to understand the Lord, to connect with the Lord is bhakti, devotion. And this is the predominant subject matter of these Adhyayas, where in the 8th Adhyaya, typically a lot of different types of bhakti are being described by the Lord. And bhakti essentially means love for the Lord. But this love is not just the love that we understand routinely when we love our kith and kins, or we love people around us. This kind of love is not just bhakti. Bhakti for Lord is the highest form of love, when the priority for us is the Lord himself, nothing else. When the love is selfless, it is not selfish that we want something from the Lord, and that love is mixed not just with other emotions but respect. That kind of respect that Lord is the creator of this universe, Lord is the all-knowing, all pervasive, all eternal, this kind of respect of the highest nature, which is also called reverence. So this is what is bhakti. So it is highest love, not just love and respect, but it's the highest love with reverence towards the Almighty. That is, and the essence behind, the root of this bhakti is the faith. Faith is the essence of bhakti. Unless there is faith, there cannot be bhakti. So Shraddha is very, very important for bhakti. And the ultimate fruition or ultimate end stage of the bhakti is the jnana. Because unless there is jnana, there is no liberation, there is no moksha. So jnana is the final end stage of bhakti, and the climax of bhakti ends in jnana. If you see the greatest devotees also, they felt one. Meera, Tulsidas, and all the Narsi Mehta, all these great devotees that we have seen, for them, if you see that, their poetries, then one feels that they felt one with the Lord, and that oneness will come only with that highest form of devotion towards the Lord. So ultimately, that is the ultimate goal that we have to reach. From bhakti we have to go. Bhakti is also sadhana. It is not a sakshat sadhana for jnana, it is a sahayak sadhana. It's a complementary sadhana, just like karma yoga, bhakti yoga. So just like karma, bhakti is another sadhana which can help us to reach to the divine. In the 7th Adhyaya, the Jnana Vijnana Yoga, the first, initially Lord says that I am going to tell you all about the Jnana Vijnana. Then he describes his Prakriti, that Maya Prakriti, my own Prakriti, the Para and the Apara Prakriti, the highest form of the Prakriti. And then he went on to describe the Vibhutis, how we can see Lord in different areas, Balam, Balavatam, Buddhi, Buddhi Matam Asmi. And he is everywhere, in all forms, he is there. And then he describes the Maya, Mama Maya Duratyaya, which is very difficult to cross. And then he says that this is because of this Maya that people are deluded, Moha occurs, and Jiva does not know me because of this. And then he says the Asuri Bhava, people do not worship me, but there are 4 types of my devotees, the Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu and Jnani. And then he says the Jnani is the best out of all this. And then he finally describes the devotees of the Devatas get their own fruits, but that all is through me. I am the Karma Phala Data. And finally he describes his real Swarupa of the Lord. So that was the 7th Adhyaya. But the main link of the 7th and 8th Adhyaya is the last 2 shlokas of the 7th Adhyaya, the 29th and the 30th shloka, because there is the seed of what is going to come in the 8th Adhyaya. So 8th Adhyaya is called the Akshar Brahma Yoga, and it starts with Arjuna's 7 questions, which he describes in the first 2 shlokas of the 8th Adhyaya. He asks about different aspects of Brahma, Karma, Adhyatma, Adideva, Adibhuta, Adiyagna. All these questions he asks. And finally, Lord describes the different forms of bhakti, Saguna as well as Nirguna bhakti. When we talk of bhakti, we generally believe bhakti is only to the form and the name and the form of the Lord. But there is another kind of bhakti which is to the Nirgun, Nirakar, Brahma, our own self, the Atma Swarupa. And this Chintan also is a kind of bhakti also, which Bhagavan will talk about, the bhakti of the yogis, bhakti of different types like the Omkar, Pranava bhakti, all these upasanas, different types of he talks about in this Adhyaya. And finally in the last 5 to 6 shlokas he talks about the 2 paths after death which the Jiva takes for this onward journey, the Shukla path and the Krishna path. These are the 2 paths, and he talks about these issues. So Bhagavan or the God has given us humans the intelligence, and the crux of the matter is that how we use this intelligence. Different people use this intelligence for different gains, different purposes, because our goals are different, our priorities are different. There are people who use this to uplift themselves to gain the material success. But according to the Lord, the human intelligence has been given to do Viveka. Viveka essentially means the discriminative form of the intellect, where we can actually divide and see what is one and what is the other. This buddhi, this part of the brain or intellect which is discriminative, which can separate the two which have already been mixed. If you can separate the two and see this clearly, what is this and what is the other, then this is called Viveka. And Bhagavan tells us to do Viveka in 4 different parts of our human life. The first part is we start with the outer objects that we see in the world. And about the objects, because we daily interact with a lot of objects, different objects, and these objects we may understand as living, non-living objects. Even for Bhagavan, from the Shastra, even the body is an object because it is Jada, it is not Chetan. So all these, what we need to accept, what we need to discard, this is called the Grahya Tyajya Viveka. We need to do what we need to, because we will have desires to acquire a lot of objects, but what are worth acquiring and what are worth discarding, what are worth Tyajya, what is worth giving away. That is also very important to understand. So this is the first type of Vivek, and for this we need Indriya Sanyam, Mana Sanyama, because Indriya are the ones which interact with the Vishaya, and then these Indriyas take this, this knowledge and take us to our brain, the Mana, which ultimately processes this knowledge, and the Buddhi or the intellect takes a decision whether we want to acquire this knowledge or acquire this object or give it away, whether it is worth or not. So this is how the human mind works. The second is regarding the karma, our actions, because we are all full of activity all throughout the day. We keep doing activities. So what are the karmas, what are the actions that are worth doing, and what are the actions which are not worth doing, which are the areas where we need to achieve something by doing some karma. So this is called the Karniya Akaraniya Viveka. And this is also very important because this will, how we utilize our time during the day and where we reach in our life will depend on what kind of Viveka we do regarding our actions, our activities, whether they will help uplift us or whether they will keep us in this world and help us only to achieve material success. The third and the most important type of the Viveka that is needed is what is called the Atma Anatma Viveka. But this Viveka can happen according to our Shastras only when there is some Shuddhikarana from the first and the second Viveka has happened. If somebody has done the Grahya Tyajya Viveka and done the Karma Viveka, whether to do or not. For Karma Viveka, Shastra is the evidence, because Shastra tells us what are the dharma, what is the karma which we should do according to our dharma, what is worth doing, Vihita karma, what is Nishiddha karma, what is not worth doing, what are the things that we should do, what are the things we should not do. So all the Shastra tells us, and Shastra is considered like a pramana or evidence. But when it comes to Atma, Anatma, Vivek, of course Shastra is the pramana, but at the same time we need to understand what is Atma, what is Anatma, who am I really? That is a fundamental question. I think I am this body, I am this mind, I am this, but who am I really? So whether I am this Anatma or I am the Atma, that is the Viveka, that is the first step towards our spiritual or our inward journey. And then finally we have to reach towards to do the final Viveka, which is called the Satya Mithya Viveka. So once we understand that I am the Atma, I am not this Anatma, then we have to understand what is the truth, what is the reality, what is the nature of this Atma, what is the nature of the Anatma, and what is that illusion, and Mithya, what is Satya, what is Mithya, whatever is according to our Shastra, whatever is Chaitanya or Brahma or Chetana, Drashta, is all Satya, because that is Nitya, that is eternal. It is there in all the three elements of time, the past, present and the future. It is always there, it is ever present. Whereas everything that is just transient, when it becomes manifest, becomes unmanifest, is Mithya. It is an illusion. Illusion does not mean that we cannot see it, because we can see it daily, day in and out. But illusion means that the way it appears, it is not its real self. It appears in a different way, and it appears to us in a very different way. And the commonest example given in our Shastras is about Rajju and Sarpa. How the Rajju, the same Rajju or the rope, appears to us as a snake when we don't have the right knowledge of the Rajju, and then it's an illusion. It's a it's a Bhranti. So essentially, according to Vedanta, Brahma is Satya and Jagata is Mithya, and Jeev and Brahma are essentially one in its Tattvik Swarupa. The Tattva behind both the Jeev, Jagata and the Ishvara is one Brahma Tattva or Atma Tattva. So that is one Tattva which pervades everything, and that is a final climax of the knowledge that we need to achieve. That is where we need to go. So in the 29th shloka, Jara Marana Mokshaya Mam Ashritya Yatantiye, and then Arjuna says, Shri Krishna says, Te Brahma Tad Viduhu Kritsnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. That means one who comes to my shelter and does efforts, he delivers themselves from old age and death. That is the first line. But the second line says, Te Brahma Tad Viduhu. Those people know my Brahma Swarupa. He coins this word Brahma. And he says Kritsnam Adhyatma. And also says Karma Cha Akhilam. All the karma. Also knows that the Jiva, Jagata and everything behind all these, there is one Tattva that pervades everything. So here three new words are coined. Brahma, Adhyatma and Karma. And then in the 30th, the final shloka of the 7th Adhyaya, Lord Krishna says, Sadi Bhutadi Daivam Mam Sadi Yagnam Chaye Viduhu Prayana Kale Pichamam Te Vidur Yuktas Chetasaha. It means he says, one who knows me as Adibhuta, Adidaiva and Adhyatma, Adiyagna. So he coins three new words here. And he says, Prayana Kalepi, during the end time of the life, at the time of the death, one who knows me, this Yukta Chetasa, this accomplished person, Mam Te Viduhu, he knows me in reality, he says. So essentially, he coins some very new terms here, Brahma, Karma, Adibhuta, Adidaiva, Adiyagna. All these are some new words for Krishna. The new words for Arjuna, and this is where Arjuna, the 8th Adhyaya starts with the first shloka of the 8th Adhyaya, where Arjuna poses questions to Shri Krishna. Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kimuchyate. In the first shloka, Arjuna asked questions to Shri Krishna. Even the 3rd and the 5th shloka started with a question to Krishna, but that question was based out of a doubt in the mind of Krishna, whether karma is good or sannyasa is good, whether jnana is good or karma is good, whether he should go for yuddha or whether he should not go for yuddha. These were all the doubts that he had in his mind. Here, now those doubts have been completely cleared in the 6th and the 7th Adhyaya, and now Arjuna asks questions for his knowledge because he wants to know. There are some new words which have come in, so he asks different questions. He says, Kim Tat Brahma. What is that Brahma you are talking about? What is Brahma? I don't understand, he says. Kim Adhyatmam. What is Adhyatma? I don't understand what is Adhyatma. He says, what is Karma? And Adibhutam Kim Proktam. What is said as Adibhuta, he says. And Adidaivam Kim Uchyate. What is known as Adidaiva? So these are all the 5 questions that Arjuna asks to Lord Krishna in this first shloka of the 8th Adhyaya. And the second shloka is asked another 2 questions. Adi yagna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham gneyosi niyatatmabihi. O Madhusudana, he asks, Asmin dehe katham adi yagna kaha atra. In this body, how can we know who is adi yagna? He says. And finally he says, Niyatadma bihi prayana kale katham gneya asi. Those who are ever devoted to you, those who are prayana kale, when they have to pass away, when they have to go from this world, the body comes to an end, how can they know you? So these are the 7 questions that Arjuna asked to Sri Krishna in this 8th Adhyaya, and Krishna answers to all these 7 questions. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatma Yuchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangnitaha. So Lord Krishna answers to all the 7 questions in the same way, that in the same order that Arjuna asks. Obviously, Paramatma is a Krishna, is a God, He knows everything. And for him, there is no problem, because if somebody asks us even 2 or 3 questions at a time, we'll probably say, okay, I'll first answer your last question, and then we'll have to say, okay, what was that first question? I don't remember. But for God, things are very different. He asks and answers very crisply in the same way that Arjuna asked the questions. So the first question was Kim Tat Brahma, and Lord Krishna says Aksharam Paramam Brahma, that he gives the answer. One that is Akshara Tattva, one that is indestructible. There is no change, there is no Vyaya, there is no Kshara, there is no change. That indestructible Tattva, and one which is Paramam. Paramam means which is the highest Tattva. There is nothing beyond that, which is the highest form. That is Brahma, he says. Second question was Kim Adhyatma. He says Swabhavaha Adhyatmam Uchyate. So Swabhava is Adhyatma, he says. Now Swabhava, the meaning of Swabhava is, Bhashyakar does, he says Swabhava means Swasatta, our own Bhava. Our own Bhava comes because of our Satta, our Spurti, that comes because of our Chaitanya, and that's why our own Satta comes from our Atma. And that's why Atma is Adhyatma. That is the meaning here of Swabhava. So Swabhava means Atma. And Atma is nothing but Brahma, which manifests in each body. That is Atma. So that is how we perceive Atma. Obviously Atma and Brahma is essentially the same. But this is how we perceive and we understand Atma. And that's why this Swasatta, this Swaprabhava, Swabhava is called Atma. Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha Visargaha Karma Sangita. So the third question was Kim Karma. What was Karma? What is Karma? So Lord Krishna says here that the Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Kara, the cause for the birth of all the beings, that is Karma. Because, according to our karmas, our Shastras tell us that we get the next Janma. So according to the Karma Phala theory, whatever we do, is it good or bad, or whether it's Daivi or Asuri or whatever, we have Punya, Papa, and according to that, the further journey is dependent on our karma. So that's why it is called the cause for all the birth of all the beings. The karma is the cause for our next janma. And Visarga. Visarga means giving away. Karma essentially means to give away. Because what we see everywhere in the nature, we see everything is in action, but everybody gives away. Say for example, sun gives the sunlight, the clouds give the rain, and the trees and the nature gives us the oxygen. So everything is, giving away. And similarly, in the vision of the Lord, whatever karma we do, we should do it for others. That's the giving away is essentially Tyaga. And Tyaga is the essence of all the yagnas, which are also based on karma. In our Vedic Vyavastha, all the karmas, there was this Ahuti, Tyaga or giving away. So all this is considered to be karma in the eyes of the Lord. So Aksharam Paramam Brahma obviously is the answer to the why it is called the Akshara Brahma Yoga. So that's the first question, what is Brahma? And here Lord Krishna says Akshara is Brahma, Akshara Brahma, and that's why it is called Akshara Brahma Yoga, which is the indestructible, where there is no Kshara, there is no Kshaya, there is no change. It is changeless, and it is the highest form of the Lord, which is the Brahma, which is called Brahma. So this essentially is not the name and the form of the Lord, because every name and form of the Lord has a beginning, has a birth, has an end, which we see because it is a form. Every form has to come to an end. So obviously this is not the highest form of the Lord, what is meant by here Akshara Brahma Paramam. And according to the Lord, the nameless and the formless Swarupa of the Lord, which is also called the Nirguna Nirakar Swarupa, is Brahma. So that which is ever pervading, all pervasive, ever eternal is Brahma. And this does not depend on anything for its own existence, because it has its own Swatta, Swasatta. It is also called the Adhisthana because it's the substratum on which everything depends. It is completely Swatantra. Even in Maya, it takes help to form the universe, but Maya is also Ashrita to Brahma. So Maya is the subservient to Brahma. Brahma has the complete control over the Maya, whereas the Jiva is dependent on the Maya, because Maya takes him to all these different areas. And this Brahma is Swasattavan because it has its own Satta, and it gives, satta to everything else because it radiates everything else. And this Brahma Tattva is not limited by the space, time and the objects, because space is within the Brahma. So it's not that Brahma is there in one place, it is not there in the other place. It is all pervasive. Even time, it is not that Brahma was not there at some point and at some time Brahma came up and then it will not be there in the future, because the time, the Kala itself is within the Brahma, because it has been created by the Brahma. And that's why they are not outside Brahma. Space, time and all the objects are within Brahma, and that's why the Brahma is not limited by space, time and objects. It is present in all, everywhere. It is present at all times. It is eternal, and it is present in all the objects. Behind all the objects, it is present in a way that we cannot see, because its nature is unmanifest. It is Nirguna, it is Nirakara, it is that highest form, and this indestructible Akshara Tattva is Brahma. So Brahma, as we know it, also we call it Chaitanya, which is all pervading, unlimited, eternal, and which is the consciousness. When we look at it from the same Brahma, which is all pervasive everywhere, when we look at it in one body, that it gives the energy or Chaitanya or consciousness to one body, when we see it in that form, we call it Atma. And that is the same as what Bhagavan calls it Adhyatma, because that is, and that's why the Adhyatma Jnana or the spiritual journey is nothing but, first we need to go deep within and understand that we are not this body, but we are this consciousness, the Atma. And finally, in the next step, we need to understand that this Atma and this Chaitanya or Brahma is one and the same. There is no difference, though it looks different, that in every body there is a Atma. Though it looks that there are multiple, we see differences, we see divergence, and we see many. But beyond all these many, there is just one Tattva Brahma, which reflects in all these beings as Atma. So essentially that is the Adhyatma Jnana, or that is the Brahma Jnana. That is the goal for the human life or the human existence. Adibhutam Sharo Bhavaha Purushashchadi Daivatam Adiyagno Hame Vatra Dehe Deha Brutambara. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna answers some more questions of Arjuna. The fourth question, Adibhutam Kim. And he says, all that is Shara Bhava. Shara means all that you see is destructible, which there is a change, where there is a Ana, Jana, Ana, Gaman, where there is change. All that is Shara Bhava is Adibhuta. So obviously all the Bhuta, all the bodies, all the Sukshma Sharira, all the Sthula Sharira, everything, Adibhuta is the destructible. Whatever you can see that becomes manifest and does not become, comes back again, is Adibhuta. And Purushaha Adidaivatam. Adidaiva, he says, the first Purusha, Pratham Purusha is Adidaiva. Obviously, the Brahmaji is the Pratham Purusha, is also called Hiranya Garbha, and that is Adidaiva. So all the Daivic energy, all the the Sukshma energy, that subtle energy in the world which drives, it's a system of the Lord where all the senses and everything is driven through this subtle energy, the Sukshma Sharira. So that is the Adidaiva, and the Adidadipati of Adhisthana of all this is the Brahmaji, who is considered to be the first human. And finally he says, Adi Yagna Aham Eva Atra Dehe. I am the Adi Yagna residing in the body, in all the souls as Antaryami. And Bhagavan already says, even in the 6th Adhyaya, the final shloka, he says, I am the Karma Phala Data and the Yagna Swarupe. I am there in all the Yagnas, behind all the Yagna Tapa, I am there. So this is the Adi Yagna Swarupa of the Lord, Antaryami Swarupa of the Lord. And finally the 7th question, Antakale cha mameva. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra sanshayah. So this is the 7th question, Antakale, how can I know the Lord at the time of death? And here all the first 6 questions Lord Krishna describes very briefly. In one point, one word, he gives the answers. But the 7th question, Antakale pi chamameva, he says this answer he gives in detail. The entire 8th Adhyaya, the rest of the 8th Adhyaya is about this answer to this question. So it's a very vivid description. Antakal means at the time of death, at the time of passing over. Antakal means when we are going to leave this body and we are going to, go and take another body as a jiva. So that is the time of death. Mam eva smaran uktva kalevaram. One who only remembers me, smarana karte hue, if we leave this body, while living this body, he says, Tya prayati, and the one who goes on an onward journey, the jiv, samad bhavam yati, will attend me only, he says. So, atra sanshaya na asti, there is no doubt about it. So, basically, Lord Krishna tells us that at the time of passing away, we should take the name of the Lord, smaran uktva, and if somebody does that, if we can do that, then we will be able to reach the Lord, because that is the last thing we said, and that is how we can. So, antakale mam eva smaran mat bhavam yati, Bhagavan says. And how we can do this? So, antakale, we can either take the name of the Lord, or we can, there are people, there are jignasu, sadhaka, who are jnanis, who will take, will think of the formless, the nirgun, nirakar, or will have a sarvatra samadarshan, or they will take the, abheda jnana about the chaitanya, brahmadrashti, or one can take the name and the form Lord, name and form saguna sakar. So essentially bhakta will do this. He will think about the Lord Ishvara, and we will get the Devaloka or the Brahmaloka. So essentially for people who are already Gnani, they will be Brahmayati. They will, at the form of, after passing away, it is said that the Sukshma Sharir will get merged into the eternal Tattva, and there is no further progress, or there is no further journey. So they will be Brahmayati, they will meet the Brahma, and this is the Brahmadrashti. So essentially these are the two ways people can devote, either to Nirgun or the Saguna Swarup of the Lord. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada madbhava bhavitaha. So Shri Krishna says, "O Arjuna, Kaunteya, son of Kunti, yam yam vapi smaran bhava." Whatever people remember, tyajanti ante kalavaram, while leaving their body at the time of the death, tam tama eva eti, means they attain them only. Sadam tad bhava bhavita, whatever they have always yearned in their life. So essentially, what Lord Krishna is trying to say here is that whatever we have done all our life, the same thing, the same name we will take at the time of passing away. If we have thought about all the time about the material objects and the material people, and we have been attached to all our close ones, and if we have lived our life like this, then at the time of the death also we will always have those people, those objects, those things, those material, those wealth, and all those thoughts in our mind while we are passing away. But if somebody a devotee has passed his entire life with the name of the Lord on his tongue, and he has always surrendered to the Lord all throughout the life, then for that person, when at the time of the passing, at the time of the death, that person will have the name of the Lord, and that is the most important. So whatever we have done all our life, we will do at the time of passing, at the time of death. That is what Lord Krishna tells us, and that will also determine our onward journey. So essentially, he says that the mind and the intellect are very, very sukshma, very fragile, because the impressions of whatever we do form on this all during the life. So whatever karma is done, that impressions, that chapa, or that kind of sanskara are formed in the mind and on the intellect, because they are very subtle. And whatever thoughts we have had during our life, whatever actions we have done during our life, the same at the end of the life, the same thoughts will continue, and the same action for the same thoughts will come. And that is the one that will determine our onward journey. Say for example, while we are taking a photographs of someone, if at the end time, while we are just going to click, that person either winks or blinks, then his photograph will be captured like that. So the end time, whatever is, that is the most important time when the photo is taken, and that will then remain as an impression on the photo. Similarly, we may have a fear that what if I am not able to take the name of the Lord in the last time, at the passing of death, then I will not be able to attain the Lord. What will happen? And that's why Lord also gives us a solution how we should live our life. It says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpita manor buddhihi mame vaishyasya sanshayam. So Lord says here, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Therefore, at all times, Arjuna, mam anusmara, says remember me. Always have my name on your lips. Always have my thoughts in your mind. Always, think about me. That's what Lord Krishna says. And we may feel that, oh, I have so much other work to do. How can I take the name of the Lord all the time sitting, taking the name of the Lord? Obviously, Lord knows that karma and pravritti and activities are all part and parcel of us, the jivas. That's why he adds immediately and says, cha yuddha cha. He says, and also do your duties. Because yuddha cha is the word denoting towards Arjuna. Because for him, at the moment when Lord Krishna is giving this sermon in the midst of the Kurukshetra, the Mahabharata Yuddha battle, then that is the time when the duty of Arjuna is to come to and go to war. And that's why he says Yuddha cha. He does not want, it's not that he wants to inspire Arjuna to do Yuddha, but he wants to inspire all the jivas to do our prescribed duties, our karma, whatever is our kartavya, karma, our duties that is given to us by the Lord. So we should do it well. And Lord Krishna says here that do your duties and at the same time take my name, remember me, smarana, mam anusmara and yuddha cha. So both karma and bhakti, both are very important. And he says, Mayyarpita mano buddhihi, surrender to me with your mind and your intellect. Because according to the Lord, if we do smarana all the time, smarana, and we do all our duties with a surrender, bhavana, towards the Lord, karma yoga is also surrender, Ishwararpana bhava. And we take this name, that smarana itself is samarpana, that itself is surrender. So smarana is the easiest way to surrender to the Lord. Always thank Him for everything that we do, for everything that He gives us, for everything that is there in our life. We keep having gratitude, surrender, and always remember Him and do our duties perfectly. That is what Lord wants us to do in our life. Mam eva eshyasi asanshayam. He says that you will attain me. There is no doubt about it. These are the words of the Lord. He says, keep doing this all the time and you will find me, you will attain me. There is no doubt about it. So, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddha cha itself means that because all our life, whatever we do, at the end of the life, we are going to do the same thing, and that will denote our next life in the, all the time we have to do it, sarveshu kaleshu, all the time, every moment we have to become a devotee, take His name, remember Him, have gratitude, do our duties, until when the goal is to achieve the Atma Jnana. Once Atma Jnana is there, there is no karma, there is nothing that binds us. We may, Sahaj tarike se Atma Jnani or even the wise or the enlightened person will also keep doing karma. That is what Lord Krishna has described in the 5th Adhyaya. But that is the time when we have to have the, keep having this bhava, bhagavad bhava. Because till we get the jnana, we have to have that bhava, that everything, sarvatra, everything is Lord, everything we can see the unmanifest nature of the Lord, and this we have to continue doing till we get Atma Jnana. So seekers and the sadhakas have to practice this effortless practice of Harinam Smarana, which is considered to be the biggest tool for us to attain to the Lord. Especially in the Kali Yuga, it is said that Harinam is very, very powerful to attain the Lord. And this, according to the Lord, the efforts of the seeker are most important. We have to do our karma, our duties, at the same time take the name of the Lord, and that is the yoga. That is how we can unite to the Lord. And this could be the form of the God, it could be mantra, it could be just the name, it could be just chanting of the name, some mantra, or it could be the the Sat Chit and the Ananda Swarupa, the Atma Swarupa that we can think. For some people it may be possible. And so according to the Lord, what we need to do is do our duty, our karma, and do our Nam Smarana Bhakti both together all the time, ever. And that is the only way that we can take this name and surrender to the Lord at the time of passing away. And that is the way we can have a better next life according to the Lord. अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन्. So here Lord Krishna shows us the way how we can constantly remember Him, how we can do our prescribed duties, karma, with the smarana, nam smarana, bhakti. And he says, Abhyasa yoga yukteno, with the study of yoga. He says, Abhyasa. Chetasa na anya gamina. Mind, keeping our mind completely focused on the Lord, on this tattva. Anuchintayan, constantly meditating on the Lord, on the God, on the, it could be Atma Swarupa also, it could be this tattva, Brahma tattva. He says, Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati, you shall attain the highest and the divine supreme Lord, he says, with this Abhyasa Yoga. So Abhyasa Yoga essentially means constant repetition and constant practice. Even in the 6th Adhyaya, Lord Krishna has told us Abhyasa and Vairagya are very, very important tools for us. Here again he stresses that Abhyasa, constant repetition and constantly practicing, from the worldly we have to Vairagya and go deep and understand and go to our Atma Swarupa and do this constant practice. Changing our sanskaras are so very vital. And mind has to be repeatedly surrendered to the Lord. Constantly from the worldly objects we have to come back and surrender to this, to the Lord. This could be in the form for bhakta, it could be in the form of a sagun bhakti, devoting to the form of the name of the Lord, or for a jignasu, or the seeker who is a thinker, who is a rationalist. It could be a formless bhakti of the Nirgun, Nirakar, Atma Tattva, which is the Sat, Chit and the Ananda. It is the Asti, Bhati and the Priya behind all the names and forms of the objects in this world. And this constant meditation, or also Nididhyasana, is something that is the Abhyasa that we have to do constantly. And with this we can change and with this lifelong Abhyasa we can ultimately thinking about Ishvara or Atma Chintana, that can only help us to have this Antakale, we can smarana of the name of the Lord. If we have done all this Abhyasa Yoga all through this lifetime, and this is the way we can do this and lifelong and have reached to the Almighty. So what is important in the Bhakti? Faith. Bhakti, surrender, prayers, prarthana, that Lord will help me to achieve this, to allow me to do it, or it will be graceful enough so that I can do this. We also need to have a lot of patience and persistence. Hamesha Bhagwan tells us to do this Nitya, Sarvashaha, always we should do it, all the time we should do this. And also tells us to become Tatpara, Sanyatendriya Tatpara. Enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is also very important for the seekers, for the sadhakas to go on this path. And then he tells us where we have to focus, what we have to meditate, what is the tattva he describes here. Kavim Purana Manushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanaru Smarekyaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parasta. So here he tells us that where we need to meditate, where we need to do Anuchintayan, what is that divine supreme, the highest form, the Parama. Kavim. Kavim means visionary, all-knower. Bhagwan is Sarvatra Sarvagnya. He knows everything. He knows the past, present and the future of all the jivas at one point of time. Not krame, not in stages, but he knows everything at one point of time. And through this, he can give, the karma phala of all the karmas that all the jivas, each jiva does. So he knows not just the stula karma that we do outside, but even the bhava, the attitude behind those, he knows. So he is Sarvagnya, he is all knowledge, visionary. So Kavi means he can see something beyond what is normally seen. And here God can actually see what is beyond everything that the jivas can see. Puranam. Puranam means this tattva is not just old, it is the same, but it is ever new. That means it is Sanatana, it is the same, there is no change, it is Anadi, there is no beginning, there is no end. So this is the kind of tattva that Lord describes. Anushasitaram, which does Anushasan, which has a lordship, which rules all the lives. and through our karma, God gives us all the janama, but this system has been clearly demarcated, defined, and that's why this shasana is done by the Lord. So to see Him as the Lordship, the ruler of this world, who creates, not just creates, maintains, but even destroys this universe. Anoho aniyam, extremely subtle than the anu, the atom. And this Upanishads described very well how this tattva is most subtle, from the subtlest form of the, so that's why it cannot be seen, but at the same time it says it is vyapaka, it is mahan, Sebi mahan, and both these things are not contradictory. Both the things can exist at the same time. It can be subtle than the subtle, it can be mahan than the mahan. And Guru Maharaj gives us an example how that ice, which is a solid part, when it melts becomes liquid, which is more subtle but occupies larger space, and when the liquid or the water evaporates, it forms the gas, which is more subtle, which cannot be seen, but it occupies a bigger space, the volume. So anoho, anuyam can also be mahan. And we have to, anusmaregya, saha anusmaregya means that one who remembers this tattva in this way by repeated study of the yoga. Sarvasya dhataram achintya rupam aditya varnam tamasah parastat. Sarvasya dhataram means which is the dhata or vidhata, which is the giving of the fruits of the actions for all the beings. Karma phala data, giving the fruits, desired actions. Achintya rupam, cannot be imagined by senses, the mind, the intellect. It is beyond all this, because that is through which our senses, our indriya, man, buddhi are working. It is that energy, that power through which everything works. That's why mind and indriyas or the senses cannot think about this achintya. It is achintya rupam. The aditya varnam, it illuminates like the sun. So it is swaprakasha because it illuminates. It illuminates means it provides jnana. It's the chitta swarupa. It provides jnana, or it's a knower of everything in this world. Not just swaprakasha, but even paraprakasha. So tamasah parastat means it transcends darkness with paraprakasha. Say for example, sun only illuminates with its light, but it cannot illuminate darkness, because as soon as the sun comes, the rays of the light will take away the darkness. Whereas the Jnana Swarupa of the Atma or the Brahma is something that illuminates both the Jnana as well as Ajnana. Because Ajnana also, we understand that I am Ajnani, I don't know so many things. So that Ajnana also is illuminated through the knowledge or the Brahma. So Brahma is not just Swaprakasha, but even Paraprakasha. It transcends the darkness and it illuminates everything. Sa anusmaregya means one who remembers this tattva in this way by repeated study, abhyasa yoga, and we need to continuously remember this kind of this tattva. Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhye pranamavishya samyaka satam param purushamupaiti divyam. So here in this shloka, Lord Krishna describes how a yogi who has done yoga abhyasa for all his life, how he can attain divinity at the time of death. And he describes prayana kale manasa achalena, keeping the mind very steady at the time of death, because he has done all his life, he has done disciplined abhyasa of the yoga, sadhana, samadhi, dharana, dhyana, all these ashtanga yoga, sadhana, he has done the yogi, and that's why at the time of the death, his mind is very steady. It is not wavering. This is bhaktya yukta yoga balena chaiva. Because he has been loving the Lord, he has been a devotee all through his life. He has love for the God. Along with this, there is a strength of his abhyasa. That is a practice of the yoga abhyasa that he has done all throughout his life. So these two strengths are the biggest strength of the devotee. One is the faith and the love for the Lord, and second is the strength of the practice, how he has lived the life. So with this strength of the yoga balena eva, it says, Bruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyaka, means by in steady the life force, the prana force is Bruvor madhye, that's the center of the forehead, where he will steady his life force at the center of the forehead, Bruvor madhye, satam param purusham upaiti divyam, that yogi attains the highest in the divine supreme Lord. So here he describes because the yogis, they have this, what is called as ichha mrityu, they can actually decide how and when they want to leave the body. The highest forms of yogis, they have this kind of yogic powers where they can actually take care of their, through their mind and the prana, they can, halt that and come and let that prana force be halted, and they can actually, depart from this body at their own will. And that is what Lord Krishna describes here, how these highest yogis who have done their lifetime of yoga abhyasa, how they can actually, attain the divinity and the Supreme Lord through this. So mukti or moksha or freedom or attaining the divinity is something which is considered to be the goal for the aspirant. And we need to understand what are the different types of moksha. So there is something called sadhya mukti. Sadhya mukti means it is an immediate mukti or liberation. And that is by jnana. Atma jnana gives us immediate liberation. Jnana itself is moksha. So jnana, and there are so many places where Upanishad describes Nanya Pantha Vimuktaye. There is no other way, but jnana is the only way to mukti or moksha. So that is what Upanishads describe. And then there is another mukti called Krama mukti, where so sadhya mukti, immediate mukti, jnana mukti is during the lifetime. It is not after death, and that's why it is also called jivana mukti. And the same person who is enlightened, who has a jnana, when he passes away, when he dies, when his body comes to the end, then there is no onward journey, because there is no next life. So that is also called videha mukti. So within the sadhya mukti, the jnani will get a jivan mukti as well as a videha mukti. But the krama mukti is another form of mukti where through the yoga bala, yoga abhyasa, these yogis will go to the Brahma loka, the higher lokas, and from there they can attain mukti. Or a bhakta or a upasaka who is a devotee will at the end, because of the power of the devotion, because of the power of the yoga sadhana that he has done, he or she will attain that deva loka, whatever adhisthana devata they have devoted, they will attain that loka. And from there, at the end of the kalpa, at the end of the universe, srushti ke jo kalpa ka when the end comes, then they will attain the atma jnana, and then they will attain mukti or moksha. So this is what Bhagavan is talking about, krama mukti here. Sadhya mukti is done by atma jnana. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti adyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. So here again Lord Krishna talks about that eternal indestructible tattva which is described by the wise. Yad aksharam vedavida. Vedavid means somebody who knows Veda properly. We'll come to that, who is a Vedavid. Vishanti yat yatayah vitaraga. The one tattva that the purified seekers, vitaraga. Vitaraga means those whose raga dvesha have been gone by the knowledge of the abhyasa yoga, which with karma yoga you can take care of the raga dvesha. So these purified seekers, what they try to achieve with yatayah. Yatayah means with their prayatna, with their efforts, what they want to achieve, the tattva. Yat ichchanta brahmacharyam charanti. The one that the ascetic desires, the brahmacharis, they desire to attain by their asceticism, by their penance, by their tapa. Tatte padam sangrahaya pravakshe. That I shall tell you that same divine position, that tattva in brief, he says. So Vedavitta means somebody who has learned not just Vedas. Somebody may have learned by heart the shlokas of the Vedas, but according to Lord Krishna, he is not a Vedavid. Along with this, he has also understood the meaning of the words, because not just ratana, memorizing the shlokas is important, but to understand its meaning. And it also means that not just the Vedas, but even we have learned the Upanishads, which are the knowledge predominant part of the Vedas. And after this understanding, we have understood the essence of these teachings, preferably from a guru, because only with this understanding from the guru we can understand the entire crux of the message of the Vedas and the Upanishads. So with this, we understand the crux of the message. We determine in our own life that this is the goal that I want to reach, and I want to reach to this goal. That person is the Vedavid Purusha. Sarvatvarani sanyamya मनोरुदि निरुध्य च मूर्धन्याधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणम्. So again here Lord Krishna says Sarva Dvarani Sanyamya, by controlling all the doors of the senses, because our Indriya goes out through all the doors. There are different doors, or the Navadware Prore Dehi, that what was described in the 5th Adhyaya, that all these doors, Indriyas, they go out through this Dwara. That is, these are all the Dwaras of the senses, the Jnanendriya. And Mano Ruddhi Niruddhyacha, by steadying the mind onto the heart, by controlling our own senses. Murdhani Adhaya Atmana Pranam, by steadying the life force, the prana, in the Murdhani. Murdhani is the Brahmarandra chakra, which is the highest chakra. Asthita Yoga Dharanam, and become steady in the concentration of yogic practices. So again, Lord Krishna is talking about the yogic, and finally he talks about the Omkar Upasak, how he can attain the divinity by Omkar Upasana. Omityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. Says Om iti ek aksharam Brahma Vyaharan, by repeating, constantly repeated Om, which is a one letter name of the Lord. He says Mam Anusmaran, and also by remembering me. So it's not just that we keep on ranting or chanting Omkara, but it also understand what is the meaning of Omkara. With this meaning of my own self, Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham, one who leaves this body at the end of the life, Sayati Paramam Gati, he also attains my highest destination, which is my Param Gati. He says there is no doubt about it, and we will see what is Omkara, what is the meaning of the Omkara, what is the Pranav Sadhana, the Saguna and the Nirguna type of the Omkara Sadhana in the next session of the 8th Adhyaya. With this, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti.